Oh, here we go again. Hi, beauties.
Hi.
Lynda,
Hello.
Grace. Hi. Thank you so much for coming on with us today. Welcome, welcome. All right. So, real quick, if you are not familiar with us, we are the Bhava Spiritual Mission. 3 alumni here who are showing up for a chat, showing up for some prayer healings, maybe some readings, whatever we can do to have fun and keep the energy moving. My name is Ingrid Turner. I am the founder of the Bhava Spiritual Mission, and I am the co-instructor for the Bhava certification program with my fabulous and amazing co-host here, Lynda Mullen. And we have our beautiful Grace here, who's a recent Bhava graduate who's gone on an incredible spiritual journey over the last year with us. So I'm really excited and grateful that you're here, Grace. And yeah, so let's just introduce ourselves really quickly. Lynda, you want to tell us who you are?
My name is Lynda. I have been with Bhava since about 2018, 2019. And I first studied mediumship and then went into the certification program. And I've been a mentor for the last couple of years. And now I'm stepping into the teaching role of teaching classes and things like that.
Yes. Teaching all things energy, psychic development, soulmatic renewal. Oh my God, we're gonna have so much fun this year. All right, beautiful Grace. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Grace Del Rey, and I started doing Bhava. I first met Ingrid, and it was like amazing to meet her and her human design chart and her readings. All were tremendous. And then she was talking about the Bhava mission, and I was curious. And then you did like a challenge or a 30-day something last year. And I was like, yes, I want to do this. And as soon as I got a cup full of magic, I was like, yes, please. I want more.
Can I have some more, please?
We have some more of this magic.
It's one of those things like when you know it's for you, you know it's for you. Wait.
Yeah.
People are either going to be like, nah, I'm good, or like, yes, please. More, please. Yeah. So we're more please people. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, well, hey, to get started, I like to do some prayer healings. So these are for anybody who's watching and for all 3 of us, anybody who wants to pitch a name in or an intention or a person in our lives, somebody who could use an energy boost, a boost of prayer and healing. And again, it could be anybody. And then what we'll do is we will I'll lead us in a prayer for that person. I will channel it through exactly what they need, what spirit needs for them, the energy they need, and we will send healing their way. Do either of you have someone to kick us off? And if you're listening, please leave a comment. You can leave, a relationship. You can leave a name, say like my brother or my whatever. Let's kick it off. Grace, is there someone in your life who we could send prayer and healing to?
There's 2. One's an animal and one's a person.
Okay, we will do both. Do you want to start with the animal or the person first?
Let's start with the animal. He's with me here. His name is Elton. We're actually outside the veterinarian emergency. He's not feeling so good.
Oh my God. Yeah, okay. Let's send some energy.
He's got a myriad of things. His name is Elton, like Elton John.
Elton John.
Okay. Mr. Elton Crawford. And then the other person, her name is Lily Ramsey. And she's got like a flu bug thing going on, and she's coughing and just can't seem to like.
Oh, poor baby. Yeah, let's get that cleared out. All right, let's do one at a time. Let's start with Elton. Mr. Elton, let's thank you, Divine Spirit. Please close your eyes and join me in this prayer. Thank you, Divine Spirit, for bringing Elton to our attention. Thank you for bringing us together. To all of us, send energy and surround Elton in the white hot light of divine healing energy, golden light of divine protection. Surround his body with love, with light, with shielding, to carry him through his pain and any suffering, to move him through his sickness, to move him into health and well-being. Help him to feel safe, help him to feel loved as he moves through this process, trusting all the way that he is safe, that no one will hurt him, that he will be well and cared for on the other side. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Leela. Leela. Thank you, Divine Spirit, for bringing Leela into our circle. Help us to surround her in white hot light of divine healing energy, golden light of divine protection. Surround her in a whirlwind of peace, of comfort, of softness, of safety. Help her to move through this difficult period wrapped in grace. Help ease her body, help ease her symptoms, help her breathe, help her rest, help her relax, help her nourish herself so that she moves through this difficult experience and comes out the other side free and clear, cleaned and renewed. Thank you. Lynda, is there anybody you want to pitch into
the only one that's coming to mind is we did a prayer for her last week, but she's going through her cancer journey. Is one of my closest friends, so I would love it if we could just continue to send her some healing energy and move through this.
Yes. Okay. Please wrap Lynda's friend in healing, in love, in light, in a pink cloud of comfort and grace. Help her to relax into her experience, to step fully into her own faith, into her own spirituality. Help her move through this time with courage, with conviction. Help her focus on the step in front of her and not to get too far ahead of herself or move too far back. To stay fully in the moment, on her journey, tapped into her intuition and her inner knowing, so that every step of the way she has the best possible care, the best possible knowledge, and the best possible decisions that she can make for herself in every moment. Thank you. All right. That feels good. All right. Anybody comes on later, if you're watching the replay and you want to leave a comment to send some prayer and some healing, time and space are not a thing. You can set the intention inside of here. It can happen inside of this energetic container that we just created at any time. It could be 10 years in the future and you could still be sending the healing. Because it doesn't matter. Time's not a thing. It just ain't. So, that being said, speaking of time, I titled this spiritual evolution, which is a weird thing for me to title it because I don't actually like the word evolution. I don't like the standard way that we look at progression, which is getting better and better and moving up in hierarchy. I much prefer expansion, like how we are expanding in a three-dimensional way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking a lot about my own spiritual expansion over the last year, 5 years, 10 years. And, I'm in a completely different place spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally than I was 10 years ago. And I'm sure that that's true for you guys, right? And I wonder if anybody wants to talk about how your spiritual beliefs, spiritual understanding has shifted in the last year. Ooh, right.
That's a heavy question.
So much. No, I mean, that's the thing is I think I'm just going to keep talking for just a minute here but 3 hours of work. I'm too. But most people don't expand and transform at the clip that we do in our spiritual community. I don't know anybody who's a consistent part of our group who isn't going through massive restructuring all the time. And that doesn't mean that it's all shadow work and it's all hell. There's parts of it that are uncomfortable, but mostly it's just it's just change, right? It's just boom, 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 boom. So, yeah.
Well, it's like the peeling back the layers of an onion and getting to the core of who we really are. And being in this community, it's easy to slough off the layers that we've put on for protection or because of trauma or whatever the cases may be. But we actually are peeling back those layers to step into who we really are.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And I'm finding that I'm myself more and more trusting my intuition or, you know, anything that comes to me, and sharing it, and not having being unapologetic about it.
Mm-hmm.
So just, you know, stepping more into being more confident about my own spirituality, my own psychic gifts, my whatever the case may be.
Our own weird and wonderful way of doing it. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh my God. I mean, the shift from me, like thinking about it, you know, when you ask that question, like, wow, what an incredible journey in 1 year from what I thought I was doing to, I think at one point I was like, Ingrid, I normally plan out a whole year and I know where I'm going and I know what's happening. And now I'm like, I am not so sure that's what's happening.
Yeah. And you're comfortable with that, right?
Yeah, I'm more comfortable with it.
So.
It's like it's more so getting more comfortable with being in the unknown, because I can be in the known and keep creating the same thing over and over again, and the results that I'm getting is the same results, but I'm obviously I'm wanting the more cup of, like, I want the more expansion, I want the bigger growth, I want the understanding more on so many different levels, that it's shifted a lot of things throughout
Yeah.
whether it's like, as Lynda said so eloquently, like, it is knowing more about yourself and trusting your intuition and starting to, like, be able to tap into your guides and hearing yourself and hearing the messages that are coming through, however they come through in your gift. And what I love about the experience that I just went through with, you know, as a newly graduate, is that everybody's gift is different and it's coming to them differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what I think one of the best qualities of the Bhava Spiritual Mission is we have all walks of life in our community. Nobody has the same spiritual outlook. There's a lot of overlap for sure. Like, but no spiritual outlook. Everybody's doing it differently. I have something I want to piggyback off of something you said, getting more comfortable being in the unknown. And I had this reframe that I want to run by you and see if this makes sense. When we're comfortable in the unknown, we're actually in the only possible known, which is the moment. Like, when we are planning out the future, we think we know what's going to happen. It's an illusion. There is no known out there. There's no known back there, right? You can only be known. What's truly known is in this moment. And when we're fully in this moment, like when we're in this limbo space or black space, that's when we can tune in and actually know everything. I wrote a post about this a couple of days ago. It's like, when you're really tapped into your intuition, when you really trust yourself, you don't have to be afraid anymore. Because when you're present, you know everything you need to know in that moment. And when you said it's like you used to, like, plan a year ahead, and one of the first things I think I said to the group was, toss the 5-year plan. It's not happening anymore, right? So it's like being comfortable inside of your power in the present moment when you can tap in everything. What does that feel like?
No, I mean, I feel like that's right on. Like, I feel like the worry or the anxiousness or the fear that I will get, everybody gets, is that not being able to sit in the unknown and be like, when you're in the present moment, and as long as bombs aren't going on around you, I'm sorry.
Oh.
As long as bombs aren't going on around you, you're safe, right? Like, if you know you've got shelter, you know you've got the basics of foods, in the very moment, you're safe. You're okay. Like, in this moment, we're all safe. We can be having our feelings, our big feels, but we are safe. And you're right. Like, being in that moment and slowing down is really beautiful in terms of, like, then you can create, like, the reality, or attract the reality or the goal, the thing that you're wanting to, like, experience.
Yeah. And you can you figure out how you're in your own way. This is a big part of the program we're doing now, right? Getting out of your own way. There's something else I was going to build on, but it went away. What do you think, Lynda?
Yeah. I keep seeing like literally an onion or a flower opening up and us standing in the middle with this big yellow light coming from above. And it's so when you were talking about that, it was yeah, it felt like that was what you were saying. Like when you're in the moment, you're in the flow, you're present.
Yeah,
It's powerful.
it really is. And like something that a friend of mine was working with a mentor of hers on spirituality and psychic development. And she said that one of the things she was told was, you just need to decide. And once you decide, you're in the moment. When you decide, you know, when you decide, you're connected, right? Staying in the moment, deciding that you're connected to source, that you absolutely know what to do next. Then anytime we're questioning ourselves, because we're not in the moment, we're tripping on a future or worrying about the past or other people or whatever it is. But when you're present, you know, right? You know what to do right now.
Yeah.
Mm. That is so true.
It is so true. And it really like, so, you know, somebody, I think it was you, Grace. I think we were having a conversation. It's like, how do you like put into a summary like what we're doing at the Bhava Spiritual Mission, right? Which is why we talk a lot about intuition development, because that's the doorway to really what is ultimately a profound healing journey, profound fucking journey. And it starts with, I think intuition development is so important because it helps people, it opens the door to people trusting themselves and coming home to their divinity. That's it right there. And on the surface, like most people would think, oh, you know, I want to develop my psychic abilities. A lot of times it's ego based. You know, it's like, oh, I want to do that. You know, I want to do readings for
It's a neat
people.
party trick. Let's try it.
Yeah, like I want to talk to dead people. Or sometimes it's like I want to talk to my dead people. You know, I want to create my ancestors. So like there's a desire for that healing as well. But the truth is, like, I've never seen this work lead anywhere but love. Like tremendous self-love, tremendous love for other people, tremendous love for spirit. It's and and I think that a lot of the psychic development and learning out there is like, I don't know. To be honest, I haven't gone through a lot of other programs. I just teach what I know to teach and what spirit comes through, and we gather who we gather. But like, it's not a gimmicky thing. Like, yes, there's and part of the psychic development work is actually ego work too. Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, my God, you're on this path, and you're like, I guess that's what's part of the shadow work, is that it pops up, and you go, oh my goodness, look how beautiful and big and bright and like in my way you are.
That's my ego. Yes. Look how big and beautiful and bright and in my way you are.
I love it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's so true though.
Yeah, it's like I'm protecting you. I'm like, no, babes, you're not. You're in my way. You need to like go and do some work for me. Like, this is what I need you to work on, right?
Yeah.
That's what the thing I learned in this program was all about, is like learning to go identify what is ego, what's not true, and then be able to give it in a new assignment so it can be right, while I go and actually like.
Okay, I love that so much. And can you give us
awesome.
an example of what that looks like? Here's my ego assignment so I can go do this. What does that look like?
It looks like, okay. Instead of like, okay, I'm planning a trip, and then my ego comes in and be like, you know, oh, you can't afford this, you can't. It starts to go all these things of like, but what about this? Who can come? Oh, I can't afford to pay for everybody. I can't. Oh, and you're fat. Like, let's look at your body. Let's look at this set. What kind of bathing suit are you gonna wear if you're gonna be there? And like, you can't even get up on a board. You can't even do a push-up. Like it just like rattles on, and you're like, what? Why? Just want to go to Fiji. Like, why? That ask for that. Yeah, those are things that are possibilities, and they're goals. So then it's taking the ego and saying, okay, yes, those are possibilities. I can identify with, I can see where you've seen past things, but why don't we be in this present moment of the desire of going to Fiji and being totally supported by the universe and making that money come. Why don't you go out and conspire with the universe to go and bring me the money, bring me the easy way to like get healthy and be shiny new within myself so that I can accept the body that I have and where I am in life in those changes. And you go conspire and let's take note. We'll come back and meet and talk about it. And let me just like put those other things in action for myself.
You put your ego on a mission to go figure out how to get there, right? How to work with the universe instead of doing on you.
Right.
Got it.
Because I was like, everything you're saying, like, I don't necessarily disagree on some of those things. Some of those things I don't disagree. I disagree. Like those are like what ifs, but they're not facts. They're not like, yeah, the earth could fall, the planes can fall out of the sky, but that's not what's happening. That's not a reality. That's a what if.
Yeah. I mean, going back to what you said earlier about like everything is fine right now. Right now, we like have food, we have roof overhead. 99.9999% of the time, everything is fine right now. And if you're living in presence, right, then when the bombs do fall from the sky, guess what? You're going to be the one to get out, right? To know how to respond immediately because you are super aware of what's going on. Your intuition is fired up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's like moments where I'm like, no, I'm now so attuned from going through this process. I'm more attuned to hear like, hey, I don't know why you need this, but fill up your gas tank. Like go get your car checked. Like I hear things and like normally I'd be like, I don't have time right now. I need to go and I just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden like, oh, well, I had an emergency and this is a prime example. I said to myself, like, I need to fill up the gas tank. Because I knew my friend who was picking me from the airport likes to like run it on E. God bless that soul. And I was like, for some reason I was like, I got this niggling in my head that was like, you need to fill the gas tank up. Well, last night we needed to go to the emergency room and there was only 10 miles. I could only drive 10 miles in the car and all the gas stations were closed. So if I listened to myself and stopped him from getting home and saying, let's fill up the gas tank. I mean, that's a small example, but it has huge consequences because then he had to go to this whole thing.
Yeah. Made it a whole ordeal.
Yeah, it became a whole ordeal, which if I just heard myself in that moment, life becomes very easy because I already took care of it.
Right. Instead, ego comes in and goes, no, we have other things to do. We've got a future to worry about. Right. No time for that.
Right. Yeah. So when I'm in the present. Yeah.
Your solution, the way you manage your ego is you give it jobs when you notice it. You give it a job to do out there.
Yeah. Yeah. First acknowledge and then give it a job.
Acknowledge and give it a job. Yeah, because it deserves a light of day. It's just trying to get your attention. Hey, I'm trying to save you. Lynda, how do you manage your ego?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. How do I manage my ego? I like Grace's idea. Acknowledge it and send it off to do a job. That's amazing.
Get out of here.
I think I let it get in the way sometimes, but I think I'm pretty good about just saying, okay, I hear you, but next, and I can let it go. That's taken a lot of practice, but yeah, I'm able to. I think I do what Grace does, acknowledging the what might be coming up. But at the same time, I can say, okay, that's my ego. I can let that go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to laugh at my ego. I call myself out, which you guys have heard me do a lot.
That would piss it off. That would really piss it off.
No, I call my ego out and I make it a joke. Because I think for me, laughter is kryptonite to the ego. If I'm giggly and I'm laughing, I'm in the moment and I'm not concerned about like my ego. That is also taken practice because yes, sometimes, but I would rather me be the one to call out my ego than somebody else, to be honest. I feel
a lot more comfortable.
It's letting it down gently as opposed to slamming it down. Like, oh God. One of the things I say is like, I think people who have really good karma, so to speak, or if you're on the spiritual path and you're committed to this work, our gift is, our good karma is that when our ego gets out of control, a sledgehammer comes down from the universe and smashes it. And that's really hard and uncomfortable. So we learn to moderate our ego. And, you know, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Ego's not the bad guy. It's just unruly. I described it in
alive.
I described it in a group recently. It's like, it's not your friend, it's not your enemy. Think of it as an employee that needs managing. Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
And for me, it's just like, I got to call myself out on it and I got to giggle. And that's something that is really, actually, that's been a huge part of my spiritual evolution over the last year, is not taking my bullshit so personally and so seriously. Like, we all got it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I first started like being more awake and more mindful and aware, when things would go Ray and I would be calling myself out, then I would also dump on top of myself all the negatives, like, you're such a horrible person, you're like, and then the ego got to like beat me up, and I was like, this isn't the work. You're not supposed to beat me up on top of like me like noticing. I'm like, that doesn't feel good either.
Yeah.
Like being mindful of like, okay, how about like, let's just see it without the story.
Yeah, you know, that shame, I don't think shame is a real emotion. I think shame is like a chemical reaction that occurs when we have our authentic experience, good or bad, and it meets outside expectations and we perceive it as not being a match. So, and even if that's like a bad, like a mistake that we're making, for example, you know, if you're, you know, a 6-year-old and you're figuring out the world and you figure out what your values are, you might do some things, we do this as adults too. You might do some actions that you recognize are not aligned with your values as soon as you do them. Like, oh, I'm a 6-year-old and I tripped that kid walking by just to see what would happen. Oh my God, I feel terrible about that, right? So you can feel the guilt and you can make amends, adjust your behavior, and then have a stronger sense of your own values moving forward. But shame is a very different thing. Guilt is like, I didn't like that behavior. That was not cool. But shame comes in and goes, you are bad, you are terrible, you will never be good. You're the worst. And that, I think, is like, I don't think that comes from us. I don't think that's an authentic emotion. I think that's emotion coupled with conditioning, right? And just creates this storm of shame. But what I've found as someone who has been very close with shame, that when I look at it directly, when I really look at shame, it can't stand the light of day. The challenge is to look directly at what you're ashamed of when you feel shamed. And when you do that, it actually dissolves really quickly. But it's so hard to look towards it because the story is like, you are bad. You are wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And that conditioning is really, that's really hardcore, is that conditioning. You know?
Yeah, it is hardcore.
Because it's like you have to break that conditioning, break that story that's been like dogging you to be awakened to like going like, well, that's a story. That's not true. That's not true now.
Yeah.
Maybe it was true, but that's how it was perceived and projected onto you as a child. And you adopted that as a belief because they kept conditioning you to like have that reaction.
Yeah. And bringing it back to why psychic development, intuition development is such a powerful starting point for that spiritual healing journey is when you learn to differentiate what's my intuition versus what's shame, what's emotion, what's fear. You know, a lot of times, like before I developed my intuition, I would think I had a strong emotion, so it must be my intuition. Nope. And when you learn how to differentiate those two, then by contrast, all those things, and by contrast, you begin to understand what's not yours.
Right.
Right. What doesn't belong with you, and what's serving you, what's helpful for you, and what isn't.
Oh boy.
I know.
Yeah, it's profound. It's moving. I think that's like the gift of Bhava in terms of understanding and differentiating that is really
Yeah. All
where
the different pieces of ourselves. Like, it's like nothing, it's not that anything isn't valid. Your emotions are valid. Your fears are valid. Your whatever, it's all valid, but it ain't God. It ain't intuition. It ain't what you think it is necessarily.
right. And I think a lot of people, when before they start their journey, they get jerked around a lot by those emotions and those, like, I should behave this way. No, I should behave that way, or I should be this, or I'm going to, like, that's where the commercials, like, get you by the hook. I've got to, like, go and get the new iPhone, or I've got to go get the new this to, like, fill in all the emptiness that I feel.
Yeah. There's such a lack of worthiness in the world. So many people feel so unworthy. Something that I saw, that I really saw in my on my recovery journey. I spent a good year in Alcoholics Anonymous because I went a little too far. And on that journey, on the tail of that was my spiritual awakening, which ultimately sort of graduated me out of AA. I didn't really need that, but that was the beginning of, like, my spiritual stirrings, right? And I remember kind of coming to this understanding that people who have real addictive personalities, have strong addiction issues, they have this wide opening to spirit, and they don't know how to fill it with spirit. And so they're trying to fill it with whatever they can, drug, sex, alcohol, to feel filled, and they can't fill it because only God can fill it. And that's why AA, or really any spiritual program, is really ultimately what helps people get sober, because they're finally able to fill that hole, right? They're finding the meaning that they're hunting for outside of themselves. And I think that when you touch on worthiness,
Yes, sorry.
I think worthiness, like feeling unworthy, is a big part of that. We're looking for things, material things or social things, to feel worthy, to fill that hole in us. And really, it's just spirit shape. It's a spirit hole.
Wow.
I could see that.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went to an AA meeting. It was so hard. It was one of the hardest things I ever did. I stumbled my shame-riddled butt into an AA meeting for the first time. And, like, it was really serendipitous. It was a beautiful experience looking back. But I remember they were in a circle, and it happened to be a beginner's meeting, which I didn't even know, because Grace, right, just took me to the one that I needed to go to. And everybody was going around telling, like, the topic was what happened, like what finally got you into, take care of this stuff. And everybody had a different story. But I remember going, these people are so powerful. They're so powerful. Like, even at that time, like, just coming off of, like, still detoxing from alcohol, and, like, I could look around and be like, these are such powerful people. You can feel the energy in the room. And it's because they were just, I think that in that place, it was a way for them to get full of what they really needed. And not everybody's a fan of 12-step programs in AA, and I totally understand it. Like, I don't think that's the be all end all, but it was a key experience for me on my spiritual journey.
I think it's a really good place to start, though.
I think so too.
Because like you said, it gives them something to fill themselves with. And if you don't have that foundation, then it's really hard to do it on your own. That's sort of like what Bhava did for me, right? Like, I was a dabbler. I looked at all different modalities and whatever, and I was never really focused on one specific thing. So it was really overwhelming to think about, oh my gosh, there's so much information about this, or there's so much information about that. And so it gave me the focus. So having structure to the learning was a big value add for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of what happens when you go to those 12-step programs, right?
Yeah.
It gives you, so now you've got, okay, this is step one, and this is what you're going to do. And you know what? Everybody does it at their own pace, and you just take it on as you can, and you move through them. And then, hopefully by the end, then you're able to stay sober, and you can,
Yeah, everybody has a different threshold. And, like, I found the 12 steps very valuable. That was, like, kind of the beginning of the work, that the deeper healing work that we do in our as we get more advanced in our training programs, like that Soulmatic Renewal work. It's like, we're going in, we're not avoiding anything and we're doing it in a really safe way. Yeah. So, this is just funny. You said structure around my learning. And I was like, yeah, structure. One of the ways that we teach, and the reason I'm laughing, is, the way that we teach in Bhava, it's very spirit led. Like, we do have a structure, but also within that structure, like within this conversation, it's like, we get to go where the spirit moves us. We get to learn what the spirit moves us to learn. And so every group gets, the core foundation, and then whatever the group needs on top of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's what they bring to the table too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's what needs to happen for them and what's pulled out of the teachers as well. Yeah, Grace.
Yeah, no, it makes me think of improv, like whether you're doing improv in dance or improv in music or improv in acting, it's being open to, as an artist, being open to what is in the presence. Yep. And I don't think the average person is used to that, being present and allowing things to come to them, unless they naturally have been taught that through their own conditioning, right? Some people are taught that in their own conditioning as they're growing up, that this is how mom and dad deals with things. We kind of like allow to see where the answers are going to come from, versus most Americans, at least, we're out there to work. We're going to have a hard day and I'm going to muscle through it.
Yep. And rigidity, right? And the like bad and good and right and wrong. And
this is how we do it.
It's how we do it. This is who you are. And also, I mean, the amount of people who have childhood dreams that are squashed because it's impractical, right?
Oh, yeah. Like I started out like as a dancer and people were like, oh, you're going to be a teacher. And I, for the longest word, teacher was the dirtiest word to me. I was like, teacher?
Dude.
I was the same, Grace.
And then they were like, oh, okay, well, when that doesn't work, you can be a nurse.
Ah, see, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so for the record, I want to put this out there publicly. No, no. If you have a dream and it is stuck with you, it is for you. You just have to clear out the shit in the way, which is your conditioning and your trauma. The stuff that has happened that you haven't dealt with and released. And like Lynda said at the beginning, peel back that onion, peel back those layers. Absolutely anything is possible. I mean, Lynda, you just started dancing again.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did. It's been like 30 years.
That's amazing. And you were a professional dancer.
Well, I not professional, but I did go to university for dance. And I took singing and acting. It was the performance option, like the performance venue. So I did singing and acting and dancing, all different, jazz, tap. I wasn't a very good tapper. I was a ballet dancer by trade, so trying to do tap was not. So I could fake it really well. In musical theater when we did that. So yeah.
I think we all have little areas in our zone of genius that we're not great at. Like I am not great at telepathy. So there's the story time. So I was teaching a telepathy class, and I knew how to teach it. I knew how to do it because that's my gift, is I know how to do everything when it comes to intuition, divination. It's like I could look at this wall and I could read you. I could read it for you. When I tune in, I just know how to do it. This was the first thing I ran into. I was like, I'm not very good at that. So teaching is a big class too. And they were teaching a telepathy class, and I'm like, here's how you do it. Here's, boom. And the students are all doing it and they're all nailing it. And it is so cool. And they're like sending images back and forth. And I'm like, okay, my turn. And I get in there with somebody and I'm like, nope, that's not it. Boom. Really? Okay. And is it this? Nope, that's not it. Boom. I could not fucking do it. And I was like, oh my God. So I had to work at it. I got better at it, but it was something that I actually had to work at because telepathy did not come naturally to me, or I had some kind of block around it. But I sure knew how to teach it because everybody else was doing it. It was amazing. So that's my tap dancing.
That was a fun class.
That was a fun class.
Yeah, no, with telepathy, I think what's interesting, it's hard for me, anyway, like, life is all about me. Is that like sometimes I'm getting like inspired thoughts that I think are inspired thoughts, but actually it's somebody else's thought in the room.
Oh, so you're too telepathic.
So I get to the point where I'm just like saying what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And they think, oh,
Yeah.
no, I was about to say that. And I'm like, oh, I just took that from your head. I'm sorry.
Help me put that back.
Well, I remember when we were doing all that telepathy, we had another teacher doing the class, and she put like 4 different items into brown paper bags. So she'd say, okay, this is the one I'm talking about. And she'd hold it up for us, and then she'd put it down. But there was a row of them. So a lot of us would pick up on one of the other bags because it was easy. I think it was easier to grasp onto the energy of it. And then she'd say, and she'd open the bag and she'd say, no, this is what it is. And she'd show it to us, right? And she'd explain what it was and all that kind of stuff. Because she had some antiques in there and stuff like that too. It was kind of fun. But I was like, well, wait a second. That's what I saw when we got to like the 3rd bag, right? So it was interesting to play that, because it was like, she's got 4 items there. Okay, this is one we're focusing on, but like you say, you get all these extra thoughts coming in, and so then I think I was confusing the different pieces from the different items each time I did it. So then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm totally off. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, that so I will do that with when I played in like mysteries, like missing persons, right? So sometimes a missing person will come across my feed, and I will tune in and I will like see what comes, right? Or something like that, if somebody's gone missing. And sometimes I nail it and it's mind-blowing, and sometimes it gets very skewed, which is why I think it's always really important when we're doing this kind of thing, for other people, like for families or investigators or whatever. If we do that, it's like you got to be clear that like nobody's 100% accurate, and in anything, not in psychic, not in speech, not in thought, nothing, right? But this one person in my town went missing, and I just got all these downloads about this person and this experience that they were having. And it was horrific. It was like they were being kept somewhere. They were being abused. I was like, this is really bad. And I was really concerned about it. And my mom, of all people, said, I think you should call law enforcement and tell them. And I was like, ugh. So I did. And I felt like an asshole the whole time, because you can imagine the reactions. Like, you're a what? So I did it, and I hung up, and I was like, oh, that was not fun. And then it turned out the guy came back, right? It was like, well, I'm fine. Just like wandered back after several weeks. Everybody was freaking out. And I was like, wow, I was really off the mark on that one. And I was talking to a boyfriend I had at the time who was friends with him. And I was telling him about like what I saw. And he goes, that did happen to him. That was his experience. And I went, oh, so that's the same thing that you're talking about. It's like, so there's a way, and that's why practicing is so important, right? Like doing those bags and practicing walking in on the energy and setting your intention, right? Practicing with each other. That's why we do so much practicing in our world, because you can practice the techniques, right? Or you can kind of have little like whimsical hits. But if you, when you're really practicing being intentional with it, that's how you do less of that, right?
The less of the misstep or like grabbing
less
stuff.
of the crossing wires, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that has been my experience. Is I've done this more and more and more and more working with people now. It used to be when I would do readings for other people, it'd be like sometimes the wires would get crossed, and I would be reading somebody in their life, or whatever. They're like, oh, this doesn't sound like me. It sounds like so-and-so. But now it's like, I very rarely do that. It's like, oh no, we're on. I got you. I'm locked into your energy. And that just, you have to feel that to know what that feels like.
Yeah. No, you know what I realized like recently is that sometimes like people that have read before, not you, but other people that have read for me have often read the person that was with me or just before me, like their energy, because I'm such an empath and I'll pick up their energy.
Yeah. Some people read the surface energy.
they'll
And they
read the other person's
Mhm.
the other person's timeline and not actually mine. Because I remember like earlier on, this one psychic had like told me all this stuff about me, and when I kept looking at it, I was like, I don't sound like me. But then when I look at my sister, I was like, that was my sister.
Wow.
He totally got her whole life, and he was accurate. When I look at her lifeline and what's going on for her, I was like, oh, that's her. But I had been taking care of her as one of her primary caretakers.
I wonder if that would still be the case after all of the energetic cleansing, protection, and hygiene that you've learned over the last year. We should revisit this and do some testing, you know?
Yeah, I think it just depends. Like, it depends on if I cleared, if I didn't clear, and how close I am to that person. Because I realize, like, recently I'm still picking up other people's energy too much.
Oh, I still do too, Grace. Yeah, it's hard not to. My husband can be very kinetic, and especially he's a professor, and so right now he's in a very stressful state because he's got 300 students and he's got all these assignments that have just come in, and the semester is closing. So he's in this very stressful state where I have to be very careful when he comes out of his office, and it's like, okay, honey. Otherwise I was having heart palpitations.
Oh yeah.
And and it's like, sweetheart, you've got to calm down, take a deep breath, and it's hard because he's in it, right? And he's trying to get it all done, and I respect that, but I got to watch out for when he comes out of his office, because it's like, especially right now.
Yeah. And I love that you bring that up, Lynda, because that opens up a bigger subject, which is very empathic people. Our shadow is codependency. Yeah, like, let's just take it all on, right? Or like, let's like do a bunch of people pleasing so that they feel better, and then we don't worry about ourselves. But like, what we're really doing is we're trying to protect ourselves from feeling other people's bad feelings, right?
Yeah.
And what does that do? That robs people of their experience.
Yeah, because they still got to go learn it. They still got to go experience it, and we've just delayed it.
Yeah, and we've taken it on, and we've sacrificed our own well-being and emotional needs at the expense of somebody else's emotional needs, because it's just too uncomfortable to feel them being uncomfortable. And a lot of times very empathic people actually have a strong core of personal power, and that personal power is not expressed well. So we have the ability to carry it, right? And then we feel, because that personal power is corrupted, we feel responsible for carrying it, right? And what does that boil back down? That circles back around to conditioning.
Yeah, and then feeling resentful that you're carrying it.
Yeah, and like, we did it to ourselves.
And then getting mad at yourself, like, you did that. You put yourself in this jail, in this jail without bars. You did it.
Yeah.
All by yourself. Good job.
But again, something like, and I just published something, or actually published tomorrow on my Substack, about intuition, psychic development, and relationships, right? And how it improves our relationships. And one of the ways that it improves our relationships is, again, we're learning how to differentiate, conditioning and guilt from our intuition and our empathy and all that. It's like, when you can really feel the energetic intent, and you can open up and have compassion and just know what's the energy and what's not, you're not responsible for, that improves energetic relation dynamics and relationship communication.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see how that would do. That would feel so much better.
Yeah. I get really, like, when I'm in a relationship with somebody and they're upset or pissed off or stressed, I have a very hard time with it. That's a me problem. They are actually allowed to feel however they feel.
Oh, absolutely. I don't disagree with that. It's just, it's easy to pick it up, right?
It is, yeah. But that's why we have our energetic hygiene practice and our spiritual practice.
Right.
And yeah, what our requirements are.
Yeah, and my thing is, I keep wanting to fix it. Like they got a problem. I want to go fix it. I'll find a solution. And I'm like, it's not my solution to find.
No. And that's the responsibility piece. And I think that knee-jerk response to take responsibility comes from corrupted personal power.
Yeah.
Right. We have the personal power available to take responsibility and to carry it and to fix it, but it's not a good use of it. Right. It does not go where it belongs.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about we do some readings?
Okay.
Sure.
Let's see. If anybody would like a reading who's watching live, please leave a comment and you can ask your question or just say you want a reading, and we'll go around and we will answer your question. And while we're waiting for comments, let me just do like an energetic pull, and then you guys can bounce off of it and see what else you come up with. It's like, what do we need to know for the collective today? I pulled the Queen of Swords and the Tower card. Wow. Here, let me show you. Queen of Swords.
Those are beautiful cards.
Tower. Aren't they great? They're called the Wild Unknown Tarot. They're my favorite.
That.
So I interpret this like my shit's going down, my friends. I mean, structures are crumbling. I think people are getting wiser. They're getting smarter. They're catching the gig, right? They're seeing things for what it is in a way that they haven't before. I think we as a collective are. I feel like there's a discernment that we are all experiencing as a result, I think, of the chaos of, certainly in the US and Canada, the chaos of the political climate, the chaos of the social climate, right? And the economic climate. I feel like more and more people are cluing in to things that are valid and real, and then what's noise and nonsense, right? And people are starting to shift their perspective, and people are starting to like refine their perspective. That's what it feels more like to me. And as a result, as more and more people get really clear on their perspective, I think there's going to be a tipping point. And I think there's going to be some big changes that occur in the near future, because this is the now for the collective, right? So when you guys tune in on that, what comes to you?
I keep picking up rebuild. So it's being crumbled down to rebuild it. That's what I'm getting, is that there's all this chaos is happening to break down and cause, I see an explosion, so that everything can sort of be rebuilt up in a better way.
In the tarot, after the Tower card, where everything breaks down, the next card in the set is the Star card, which is your hopes and dreams. Yeah. What are you feeling, Grace?
I was thinking about it or feeling into it, and what all the things that I've been seeing and feeling and observing in lots of other people. It makes sense because people's intuitions they're having a great awakening across the world, across the globe. People are starting to like see things, feel things that they've never felt before, which then allows them to actually see the truth of it. Like it's like the veil has been lifted, and you're like, wow, that's not what I thought that was. And it does allow for the crumbling, and things are being crumbled for you so that you can rebuild. And people are also like, I'm seeing as a collective, people are getting hits like left and right to start farming, to start building their livelihood in a different way, and go away from the commercialization of stuff.
Yes.
And get back to the homesteady, to the root, to like getting back to like nature and slowing down so you can go really fast, but slowing down and like learning how to really trust yourself, because like really you were born with all the capacity to know everything all at once.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. But as you were saying, like that slowing down and being in the present allows for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's deconditioning all the stuff. So for those that are not awake, it's going to feel like somebody's ripping their face off. And it's not going to feel good. For those of us that are awake, it's going to still feel uncomfortable because it's going to be totally different.
I keep having this really strong feeling to let everyone know, and I guess this is including myself, there's no shame in being corrected, in having a viewpoint and then seeing that viewpoint was not correct or aspects of it were not correct, right? It's okay for us to change our mind with new information. That is what genius is, I believe, is really the flexibility of our mind and perspective in our heart. So if you find that this resonates with you, or you find this resonates with you in the near future, and you're blown back by a perspective shift, right? Or something happening and you're like, that was not what I thought it was at all, and now I have new information. There is no there's no shame in that. Like, it's okay to have been incorrect and then to be corrected. That's okay. That's what we do in Bhava. Like, we go after it, and if we're wrong, we're happy about it, because it's like, oh, good information. Now I know what right feels like. So yeah.
I don't even think it's right and wrong. I think it's just a shift in viewpoints as time goes on. You're given more information, and it's just a shift. It doesn't necessarily have to be right or wrong necessarily.
Yeah. But for people who are real conditioned that way.
No, of course. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
When you say that, I think about like parenting, for example. Yeah. Like if we look at our parents, how our parents conditioned us, and then how we conditioned our kids, how different it is. But it's also like you do the best job you can with the information that you have.
Yeah.
And then as time shifts, you get new information, new inputs, new observations that you're like, that works better and is more aligned with what I'd like to experience and connect with my child or my grandchild in that way. That shifts the whole thing. And that's the evolution of growing, of expanding.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, just bringing it full circle back to spiritual evolution, the beginning, what we started off talking about. There are things that I believed a year ago, 5 years ago, that were a big part of my spiritual outlook that are not today, because I have moved past it. And that doesn't mean that they're wrong, like you say, Lynda. It doesn't mean they're not valid. It's just where you're at frequency wise.
Yeah.
It's where you're at perspective wise. And it's like
it was your truth at the time.
Truth at the time. Yeah.
And our truth can change.
Yeah. And that's okay. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, is we are so shamed for being wrong. Right. So it can be really hard for people to allow their perspective to shift and not lock down on, this is what I believe. This is what's right for me. This is what the right way. Yeah. And that's all. Just like, it's cool to evolve and change and grow, and your perspective to shift.
Absolutely.
All right, my loves. Do we feel complete today?
This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
It was a wonderful conversation.
I'm glad you could join us.
I am too. Thank you so much, Grace, for coming on and sharing with us today. Lynda, as always, thank you for being my partner in crime in every aspect, Bhava. And if you want to get a taste of the Bhava experience, we are running a 30 days of psychic development intensive starting April 16th. The link is in the description of the video. It's $17 to join. It's normally priced at $99. We're dropping the price to $17 because we want as many people in as possible, because we know how important this is for your healing journey, for your spiritual expansion, for your growth. We know firsthand, the whole Bhava community knows what it's like on the other side of this work. And it starts with developing your intuition, which, let's face it, is just fun. We have lots and lots of fun. So 30dayspsychic.com, that's linked in the description. Me and Lynda are going to be co-teaching that. And we have 15 signups so far. So come join the fun. All right. Beautiful.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, beautiful ladies. Thank you, everybody who joined in. Love you all so much. Have an amazing
Bye.
rest of your evening.